Last video, we discussed the hard problem of consciousness. We saw that there is a gap between the third-person point of view, where we can measure the brain activity and neural patterns, and the first-person point of view, the actual experiences that each of us experience from within, for himself or herself. The problem is that our brain can create just neural patterns, maybe very complex, but still, those neural patterns are different than the actual experience that we have. They just not the same thing. So those neural patterns just represent the experience, but they are not the experience itself. And the problem is even worse than that, because it seems that it's not only about our brain and about neural patterns. Every physical process is just different than the actual experience that we have. It is not the same thing. So it seems that consciousness is independent of our brain, of neural patterns, and independent of any physical process. So then, we can think about a very interesting creature. This creature can be identical to me, physically. It will have the same body, the same brain, the same neural patterns, the same representations. But because consciousness is independent of the brain and of physical processes, then this creature will not have consciousness at all, although it is identical physically to me. The philosopher David Chalmers calls those creatures philosophical zombies. Now, those zombies are not dull creatures at all. They are very interesting. Because they physically the same like us, then they have brain and they have cognitive abilities. They represent everything. So they can look at an apple, and because they have representations of those apples, they will say, oh yes, I see an apple. And because they also have representations of their own mental state, they can actually say something like, yes, I have consciousness, I consciously see the apple. But they are delusional, because we assume that they have no consciousness. So we reach here into a very weird and paradoxical situation where there can be creatures with the same physics like us, but they have no consciousness. They think that they have consciousness, but they are just delusional. It seems that we need a good theory of consciousness that will explain all of that. So this weird situation caused some people to create an interesting theories of consciousness. One of them tries to say that consciousness is just an illusion, which is weird because this is the most fundamental thing that we know, something that we cannot actually deny. Other theories try to say that maybe consciousness is not part of the brain and maybe not part of physics, or maybe we need to add some new weird entity to physics. So all those weird paradoxical situations, it seems that we need to find a new theory of consciousness outside of neuroscience, because as we saw, neuroscience cannot solve the hard problem of consciousness, because the only thing it can do is just to explain about neural patterns, but not to explain how to bridge the gap. So we need to find a new theory that somehow it's outside of neuroscience, but still part of physics, that will explain the hard problem, will bridge the gap, and will solve all those paradoxical notions. So in the next video, I will present the relativistic theory of consciousness, which is a physical theory that tries to dissolve all those problems.